Not everyone can claim success in their battle against COVID.
I'm loving life. I'm back. And I've been given a second chance. And by God, I'm taking it.
1 year on from his coronavirus diagnosis, Joe Tannous knows he's lucky to be alive. Sky News accompanied Joe back to St George Hospital, where he was admitted in March last year, a reunion of sorts with doctors and nurses he'd not seen since.
Surreal. It brought a lot of memories back. Emotional, but glad that I made it through.
He was one of Australia's earliest and most critical coronavirus patients. When he tested positive, there were less than 150 cases in the country.
I was flying back from Melbourne. I had some coughing, that was, the dry cough. When I got home on the Friday night, and I was sitting there watching television with my partner, and we sort of laughed about it. When others had reported, high-profile individuals had reported that they had COVID, and we laughed.
That high-profile Australian was then Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton, who just returned from Washington DC. He'd been a guest at the same Liberal fundraising event Joe had attended on March 10 in Sydney. 4 days later, Joe would test COVID positive. Between the Liberal fundraiser and his coronavirus test, he would also attend the NRL season opener at Bankwest Stadium among a crowd of 21,000 football fans. He was consumed with worry about his 40 close contacts that would also have to be tested.
I carried it as a burden, like it was a burden on my shoulders to worry about everybody else and what, if they were positive, what would that mean for them and their families.
By a stroke of luck, none of them, including his pregnant daughter, would become infected, while Joe's condition continued to deteriorate.
And as the week just wore on towards, the hospitalisation period, it was just sleepless nights, very hot, the temperature, I was sweating, I felt the chest really tighten, and I was just grasping for air.
He was so ill, he texted his partner to call for an ambulance.
He went down to ICU the same night. We recognised that he was deteriorating, his biomarkers were not favourable, so he went down to ICU relatively early. He was intubated sort of the next day.
It's a reality that's still very raw.
It wasn't long after that where they asked me to just, text my family and tell them that I'm now going in. They gave me literally 5 minutes, and then they took the phone, and the last memory I have was of the mask being put over my face to knock me out.
5 minutes to say a goodbye?
Potentially, yeah, potentially. Just to say that, I have to go now, I'm being wheeled away, and love you all, and I'll see you soon.
Was there a time that you thought, maybe I won't make it?
Yeah, I asked the doctor, am I going to make it out the other end? And when the doctor said we're going to do our best, I think the reality started to settle in.
A non-smoker with no underlying health issues, but Joe would spend 10 days in ICU, unaware of the global crisis unfolding around him. When he was finally able to breathe on his own, it was the voice of his youngest brother that pulled him back into consciousness.
He was encouraging me, come on Joey, you can do this, mate, you can do this, we love you.
Disoriented and 12 kilograms lighter, he came to, but he wasn't out of the woods yet.
Mentally, we're prepared. There's obviously feelings of anxiety within the hospital among the staff about the eventuality, and once it was here, it was more just practicing medicine.
Dr Zeng was on call when Joe arrived at the hospital. He became his treating physician and has been following Joe's recovery from day one.
I guess Joe is unlucky to have got a severe or critical COVID-19 to start with, but his recovery has been remarkable.
So much so, his vitals now show an almost complete rehabilitation. But in a pandemic where early research was mostly anecdotal, Joe's recovery remains ongoing as doctors assess what could be lifelong physical and mental repercussions.
Shocks us to the core. Why us? I think it's about time people, sat up and took note that it can happen to anyone and that COVID does not discriminate.
Jessica Maggio, Sky News.